At that point, we had just watched Nazis march in the streets. There were, I think, 90 free speech rallies still planned around the country at that time. Boston hadn't taken place yet. And I was seeing Kakistani flags being flown at the rally in Charlottesville. The Southern Poverty Law Center documented all the different flags that they observed, and the Kakistani flag was one of them. And this combined with me learning that Sargon was going to be coming to my hometown.
All right, today's guest is none other than Kristi Winters. I had originally wanted to get together with Kristi after this whole thing was over. This is her perspective of the whole myth information shit show, and it's really fascinating. So here you go. Here's Kristi Winters. You were giving me all kinds of good information on these people because you know far more about these YouTube shitlords than I do because I haven't existed on that world at all.
I grew up in Wisconsin. And so when I found out the conference was happening in Milwaukee and that Carl was coming to my hometown, my reaction was not without me saying something.
Right.
My PhD was looking at the problem with the fact that we measure man-woman in our social surveys, but when people go to interpret them, they rely on social explanations. For instance, women are more likely to say they support censorship. I'm pretty well grounded in politics and how to do things to get stuff done. You know, I think it came out in April, the Mythicist Milwaukee lineup. But at that point, we had just watched Nazis march in the streets. There were, I think, 90 free speech rallies. Boston hadn't taken place yet. And I was seeing Kakistani flags being flown. With me learning that Sargon was going to be coming to my hometown, I have a, not a long-running, probably only about 2 or 3 years feud. Comparatively, you know, Sargon has longer-running feuds. But I had very personal reasons for finding him.
Sorry, it's just a fun. He's got much longer feuds.
And then I did a video called Evidence That Patriarchy is a Real Thing. And that got attention. And that got Carl's attention. He and I had a debate in which I think the consensus view is that he performed poorly.
Of course, this synchronizes wonderfully with the redefinition of sexism. So now not only are all men oppressing all women using sexist institutionalized power, but women can't even be sexist in return. They campaign against other people's human rights. The only women these terms apply to are the ones feminists are busy erasing, so they can pollute the media with their own petty and selfish needs. Hashtag manspreading, mansplaining, mansplaining, manshaming, fucking man-hating.
Kristi, your final rebuttal.
What I'm really hearing from Carl is complaints that he finds other people's opinions offensive.
It was meant to be an interview like a Dave Rubin interviewing me, and then when they switched it to Sargon, they switched it to me interviewing him. I said, okay, sure, whatever. And then once you and some other people made me aware of just how awful the guy was, because I, you know, honestly, I wasn't doing my due diligence, you know, kind of my mistake. I wasn't really, I got a lot going on, so I was just like, I'll look this up when I get to it, you know.
I'm a data guy. Yes, see, you're a feelings person. You feel like there's no discrimination.
Are you insane?
But you guys were making me aware of it, and so when I saw just how truly crappy he is, you know, and like just how ugly some of the stuff he said is, I had told them, like, can we just make this a debate? But I didn't anticipate a crowd of Kekistanis shouting. Now, he feels so emboldened that he doesn't have to answer any questions.
Why are you siding with censors? How do you justify this?
So, does everybody get to come up here, or just...
Whoever the organizers want to invite.
Well, do you agree with their decision to no platform?
It's completely their decision. Can
you answer the question, though, of why you think they want to deplatform you?
He can kind of interrupt me and do whatever he wants. So I don't know that I would put that all on them. Like, it might have been my fault.
Anybody who made noise should have been escorted out by security.
Well, and apologies for making one more little point here, because it just occurred to me. This is one reason why, if afterward the organizers had been like, that's not what we thought it would be, I would have been accepting of that. That's why I shouted at them in the middle of the thing. The organizers, the big money guy, you know, like, I had to imagine this can't have been what they wanted, right? They can't have been wanting a crowd that boos defining of terms.
So the definition, if anyone actually was interested, if you argue all day, you yell at feminists for a living, if you were interested in what the definition is, intersectionality just has to do with the different levels of identity we have and how they interact.
It's like a crowd that doesn't allow me to even start a question or define what I'm saying.
And that's why it was unfair, because once it stopped being an interview and they were telling people you were going to challenge him, and it basically became a more aggressive scenario.
That is true. I had told them, like, can we just make this a debate? Can we just make this a debate? Another thing that happened was once they cheered sexual harassment, I just didn't care about them. So I'm not trying to win over a crowd that cheers sexual harassment. I have nothing but disdain for that. So, fuck them. I'm not interested in that crowd. So I was just.
Speaking of disdain,
yeah,
there's a lot of gaslighting of me. I'm accused of being obsessed with Sargon. There's a lot of his followers who will use the typical "she's a crazy woman." He's not interested in you. There was a horrible thing that happened. The news emerged that Russian Deadpool, the guy who has that moniker, had been arrested on suspicion of second-degree murder. Immediately, almost within hours, a guy who's on YouTube called V gathered several people who are shitlords in a hangout, and they joked and laughed. These assholes going online for almost 2 hours and joking about it and talking about it. And on the day of her memorial, Sargon tried to troll me. And I asked him if he would apologize for his participation in that hangout because it was the day of her memorial. And he said no.
Yeah.
So when people ask me why I'm motivated to make sure that Carl Benjamin isn't normalized, he can play nice when it's to his interests because he wants to get you on the back foot. This is very common. The sort of absolutist free speech crowd, they want to be able to do anything. It's a terrible, awful tragedy that should not have been laughed at in a hangout.
But I just can't believe the lack of humanity that it would require to be so callous about someone dying.
I can't tell you how many times that his fans wouldn't even rape me. I receive rape threats from Sargon fans. I receive death threats. I mean, I've got entire folders that are screenshots of comments. In fact, I have to separate them by month. Sort of wave of harassment that he sent me. So I've got like the December folder and the February folder because there's different themes depending on which harassment was sending my way. So I was concerned about the free speech element. So I did contact the venue, and my letter to the venue is actually on my Twitter. And then I say he was endorsed by the English Defense League, which is a racist far-right party. He has also been using this Kekistani flag. He also organized an online rape harassment campaign. So I just kind of listed gave him his rap sheet, and they got back to me and basically blew me off. I don't regret letting the venue know that somebody with that record was going to be showing up. And I've always contacted Mythicist Milwaukee either at their Twitter address handle or at the hashtag. I don't have any recollection, not a single time, where when I tweeted at them with their Twitter handle that they ever acknowledged me. Very shortly, like within a week, they made an official statement, we are sticking by our lineup. When the conference said, we're standing by Carl, then my focus changed because what I wanted to do then was make sure the stink that I knew Carl would bring would stick on their organization, because I don't want, like I said, to see Carl normalized. I don't want to see him appearing at American conferences. So that's when I started on AcadianTimes.com, which is a spoof. It started off as a spoof on Sargon's name. It's run by somebody else. I started collecting information in the start of September. I just started aggregating instances of him being awful by theme, because I wanted a quick resource for people to be able to go to say, look at what this guy is like. Because again, I wanted to make sure that there were always these resources that blah. That made me very happy. I wanted everything ready for when the moment happened for everyone to be able to pass around information about Carl.
It's sounding like you actually didn't even try to necessarily contact the people speaking. Like Seth happened to find something. Aaron already knew that Sargon was awful. Was that not something you guys tried to do?
It was really just, people, either me kind of like collecting information and circulating it, putting it into the hashtag, or other people mentioning it or discussing it. That was basically, like I said, I wanted to have things ready